We continue today after the death of Opa. The day of the commissioners' meeting came. Earl Rice, a Democrat and a quiet, intelligent man, came early. I remember Opa had said to me, "I admire this man, this rancher with his good common sense." He was accompanied by his wife, Josephine, an attractive woman, not given to a lot of talk. I had gotten to know her and many other ranchers' wives in the Home Demonstration Club. I had learned that when she did say something, which was not very often, it was worth listening to. Earl strode over to my desk and stated, "You ran on that ticket as much as your father-in-law did. The people voted for you, too. You'll be the next county clerk, Edna." I couldn't keep back the tears, and I put my head down on the desk. Did I really want this office? But now I too had a duty to the voters. I raised my head and said, "Thanks, Earl." "I'm spending the day here," Josephine announced as she seated herself on a chair in front of my desk. "You'll need all the support you can get today." I soon learned what she meant. Several people streamed into the commissioner's room, among them the chairman of the Democratic Party, the county attorney, and several other staunch Democrats. The day wore on, and I could hear raised voices, some quite angry. "Here's our chance to get a Democrat in that office." Finally, late in the afternoon, I turned to Josephine, who was sitting relaxed near a window watching the people come and go. "How can Earl hold out against all that?" I asked. Quietly and with a smile, she looked at me. "He gave you his word, didn't he?" I heard the front door slam, hard enough to almost shake the solid brick building. There go the attorney and the others. "Now you are our new county clerk, Edna." And all I wanted to be was a ski racer. The next morning, Elva, Jane, and I tried to get down to business, but people kept coming in. Helen Rich, the writer, came down from the welfare office, where she and her boss, Susan Badger, held sway. Helen I knew was a Democrat, but her boss was a Republican. Susan Badger was a big woman, a dignified one, from the state of Maine, as she often reminded us. We all called her Miss Badger. No one called Helen anything but Helen. I noticed on Helen's game and fish license that the color of hair was listed as grizzled at her insistence. Miss Badger would always arrive later than the rest of us with her little black cocker spaniel pulling on the tightly held leash. It made me think of a stately steamer being towed into harbor by a small tugboat. But Miss Badger had a wonderful sense of humor. While awaiting the arrival of the commissioners, she would tell us some salty stories. She had us laughing so hard that when the three commissioners came in the door, they looked at us askance. Miss Badger would straighten up with the most dignified bearing, and as the commissioners filed past her, she would announce in a loud voice, "These three, these immortal three." Helen Rich had had one novel published and was hard at work on another. She had grown up in Sauk Center, Minnesota, a childhood playmate of Sinclair Lewis, or Red Lewis, we all called him. By the way, I think my new book will be a success. Just heard that Agnes Miner built a bonfire and burned my latest novel down on Main Street right in front of her house. Had too much sex in it for old Agnes, a so-and-so. And Edna, I'm going to be bugging you for items for this next book. You'll have to give me the scuttlebutt. With me, it's in one ear and out my typewriter. By the way, Did you know that this county is 90% Democrat? She informed me. Now you know who put you and your father-in-law in office. But I retorted, I ran on the mugwump ticket. She laughed. Come on over after work for a drink. You look like you need one. Anyway, I want you to meet Belle Turnbull, another writer who lives in the cabin with me. She's a graduate of Vassar, like your mother-in-law, class of '04. We'll celebrate your dubious victory with a Boilermaker. That evening, I relaxed for the first time in weeks, enjoying the Boilermaker. An open fire was burning in their beautiful old Franklin stove with its cranberry-colored tiles. Their cabin was old, too, but well built. There was a lovely glow to the room with the Persian rugs on the random wood peg floors. I understand you're a Vassarite, Miss Turnbull. Oh, Edna, don't call me Miss Turnbull. I'm Belle to my friends. To answer your question, or accusation, all I can say is that Vassar never prepared me for life in Breckenridge. And she laughed, looking like a delicate Dresden figurine with her rosy cheeks, sparkling blue eyes, and her beautiful white hair. Belle was just the opposite of Helen, who chopped and stacked the firewood for their stoves. Belle had come to Summit County several years before to recover from tuberculosis, or consumption as they called it in those days. Belle insisted she felt stifled below timberline, and she loved this high mountain country and its people. She worked hard at her writing and was just finishing her third book, an earthy mixture of poetry and prose called The 10-Mile Range. Soon we had copies of their books. My favorite inscription to us was by Helen in her book, The Willow Bender, to Max and Edna, who loved the mountains and their people too. Looking around for a deputy wasn't easy. There weren't that many who wanted to work 5.5 days a week for $150 a month. However, I was lucky to find Cleta, a very attractive and intelligent woman. Her husband's business required him to be gone a great deal, and with her children grown and gone from home, she welcomed the diversion. She also knew all about withholding statements, Social Security forms, and others. As I was soon pleased to find out, officious people didn't bother her. One day I had a phone call from Denver. Cleta, my deputy, had answered, but she said to me, "It's a person-to-person for that county clerk up there." I took the phone, and a man's voice gave his name and shouted in my ear, "You the county clerk?" Upon acknowledging that I was, he continued, "This is the Department of Revenue. Do you know you could be sued on your bond for what you've done?" "Done?" I stammered. "What have I done?" "You're short 75 cents on the car title fees you sent in. Of that fee of $1 you collect, you're supposed to keep only 25 cents for your office and send in the balance to us. Of the 23 car titles you sent in this month, you made a mistake by sending 25 cents on one of them and not 75 cents. I'm warning you to send that 75 cents right away." I thought after he slammed on the receiver, it should be 50 cents. He's already received 25 of the 75. Good deal. "What was that all about?" Cleta asked. After I explained it all to her, she said, "One lousy mistake of 75 cents? You get right back on that phone and call person to person to that guy. I'll stand right here by you. You just repeat right after me what I tell you." Contacting him on the phone, I asked, "Is this Mr. Nipwiter?" I don't dare use his real name. Yes, go ahead. What do you want? I could hear him snarling out the words. This is the Summit County clerk you just called. Cleta reached over and grabbed the phone. And you can go to hell. And she slammed down the phone. This was the last we ever heard of Mr. N or the Department of Revenue. Needless to say, I was very careful after that to send every correct penny. After making out all those car titles and filing the liens, I noticed almost 100% were mortgaged. Our old Ford was burning up at least $30 a month in oil. My $8 per day pay was before withholding tax. Maybe we should get a new car and live on credit like everybody else. After discussing it with Max, down to Idaho Springs I drove one Saturday afternoon. I traded in the old Ford and returned home with a new Plymouth station wagon. It was the first all-metal station wagon that Plymouth had put on the market. I was scared to drive it over Loveland Pass on the way home, since the road was being rebuilt and all torn up. I didn't want the new car to get the least bit dusty, so I drove over paved Berthoud Pass. I proudly arrived at the back door. Max was still using the Army Jeep he bought for $25.